Good Saturday afternoon, everybody, and welcome to special coverage remembering President Jimmy Carter. I'm Aisha Howard, joined by former longtime 11 Alive news anchor Jeff Hollinger. We are so glad to have you here with us today, Jeff. There's no one else I'd rather share the anchor desk with on such an occasion. You are so knowledgeable just about not only this city, but local politics. And so it's truly an honor to have you here as we honor former President Jimmy Carter.
It's always great to be with you, Aisha. It's a pleasure to be among all my friends here at 11 Alive, and it is a day that is bittersweet for so many throughout the state of Georgia. As we follow the life and times of President Carter, we think about his century of life in our state, in our country, and for the most part in Atlanta as well. And with that comes a complex feeling of sorrow about the loss, but at the same time looking back on this life that has impacted each and every one of us in some way.
Absolutely remarkable. We are looking live right now via chopper at the Motorcade, headed toward the state capitol, where the former president will lie in state, and people will be able to come there and to pay their respects. And matter of fact, people have already started to arrive there. Our crews who are following the Motorcade tell us they're a little bit behind, but that still hasn't stopped people from gathering, as we see here outside of the state capitol, to receive the Motorcade and just really to show the Carter family what this moment means. Can you imagine when they pull up and just see all these people who have gotten there, you know, ahead of them to mark this occasion?
There's no greater symbolism of a journey for Jimmy Carter than from Plains to Atlanta, ultimately Atlanta to Washington, D.C. But he made this trip thousands of times in his lifetime, and with it, it really comes a period of reflection for all of us. If you have made the journey to Plains, it is really staggering to think where he came from and how he did this through ambition, through intellect, through courage, through his ability to bridge so many different divides of culture and race in the South, in the middle of Reconstruction afterwards. The 20th century has been a very difficult place in the American South, and he was able to navigate it in ways that few men and women ever have been able to.
A lot of people talk about just the shock factor of Jimmy Carter, and it just speaks to his spirit and sort of how he started this journey into politics. The fact that he returned to Plains. Most presidents don't return to, a small town where they were born and raised and just really kind of lay down roots in that way. We want to send it live now to 11 Alive's Teresa Bowles, joining us outside the state capitol as that crowd gathers there to receive the body of former President Jimmy Carter. Teresa, tell us where you're seeing right now.
I'm on Washington Street outside of the state capitol, where people are already gathering. In fact, former President Jimmy Carter's motorcade is expected to arrive in the next 15 to 20 minutes. But right now, if you'll look outside of the capitol, groups are gathering in front of the stairs. I've seen some state patrol officers out there. They're expecting about 90 lawmakers and about 6 patrol officers that were a part of former President Carter's detail. They're expecting an honor guard. And inside, there's a bunch of memorabilia to honor him. They have wreaths outside of the Capitol right now, and people are standing, and there's really just a solemn mood outside right now, but also a positive spirit, because obviously they're remembering the positive things about him. And outside of the Capitol on Martin Luther King Jr. Drive, there are folks waiting to see that motorcade come in. Like I said, it's expected in the next 15-20 minutes. It's going to ride by here in front of the Capitol, and former President Carter's son is expected to speak to all the dignitaries here. We're expected to see former Governor Sonny Perdue, as well as Supreme Court justices and other senators from Plains here to honor and remember him today. So it's going to be a beautiful service. People are really taking their time to pay their respects for former President Carter today, and we're hoping to see that motorcade very soon, so that all of the people standing on the street can pay their respects, and then we'll get a chance to see the family here very soon. Live in front of the state capitol in Atlanta, Teresa Bowles, 11 Alive News.
All right, and as Teresa mentioned, that motorcade is actually going to come down Washington Street, which is why those people have gathered there, just to get a glimpse of this motorcade coming through before it passes on and goes to the Carter Center.
It's always interesting when you go to the state capitol, where the body will be brought in. Nearby there is a statue of Jimmy Carter, and it is always a reminder of how far the state has come him and his extraordinary life that began in Plains and found so much importance and so much relevance in the mid-1960s into 1970 into Atlanta and state government, and all of the issues that he had to deal with as the civil rights movement was, catching its wind. And as governor after the assassination of Dr. King, the complexities of life in the state and city are something that I think we all should contemplate today about what he was looking at, what he faced, and what he dealt with successfully.
And how he navigated it different than any other former president. That's what a lot of people have been talking about, just the way he sort of really faced it head on. This is happening. This is an issue. This is the climate. A lot of people shied away from it because you didn't know what to expect. There was hesitation, sort of throwing yourself into it, and he sort of went all in.
There's a famous story that Ambassador Andrew Young tells about the first time he met Jimmy Carter was at Pascal's over on the West Side.
Oh, wow.
And Martin Luther King Sr., MLK's father, wanted him to meet Jimmy Carter, this guy who was a state senator who was running for the governorship. And Ambassador Young said he didn't want to do it because he didn't, why should I take this guy seriously? So when he first meets Carter, he says to him, "Hey, how about that sheriff there in Sumter County," which Sumter County is where Plains and Americus is. He had given Dr. King and the civil rights movement a horrible time. He was just a nasty guy, a racist. And Jimmy Carter responded, "He's a good friend of mine." And Ambassador Young says, he just kind of laughed about it and thought, this is another guy passing through. But he first got the attention of Ambassador Young a couple of minutes ago when Carter went into the kitchen and introduced himself to all the busboys, all of the cooks, all of those involved with the food preparation. He said that he had never seen a politician ever do such a thing before, and that really got his attention that this guy was something different.
You talk about the statue and we talk about the Carter Center, and so many people say, he was president, but his time in Georgia is marked and etched in our history.